Okay, so I'm going to try and describe my creative process a little bit. And it is a little bit different depending upon what I'm working on. So if I'm working on a research paper, it's my creative process is going to be completely different than if I'm working on like a character design for one of my animations. So I'm gonna stick to my field of animation and also game design as well because I'm working kind of on both. And the processes that I use are very similar in both areas. And it always starts with idea generation. Now, idea generation is huge starting point because I need to know what I want to create. And just looking at the different types of things, so character design, for example, do I want it to be a human? Do I want it to be an animal? Do I want it to be realistic? Do I want it to be cartoonish for that? Simple asking the questions and trying to get the answers to those basic questions give me something to build off of at least. I don't need to know what the characters are going to do yet. I don't need to know those types of things. I just need a building block that I can start from. Another step for idea generation is just taking in my surroundings. In my office here at home, I keep a lot of collectibles, a lot of statues, have different books, have lots of different movies, and they're all different styles and there's different concepts. And just looking around, I may get the idea of a theme. It doesn't have to be the exact same character, but seeing a style and thinking, okay, that would be kind of neat. Or what if I took that and turned it into something like this from a different style? And it's also listening to the people around me while I'm walking around, while I'm at work, even when I'm at home. I'm very observant of people around me and listening to what they have to say. My daughter, who's about 2.5 years old, has been a huge influence on my work over the last 2.5 years. There was a project that I was working on and I needed to come up with a character, and she actually had a teddy bear that she got when she was first born. So I ended up creating a animated character based off of that teddy bear, and I turned him into a boxer. It was just kind of getting that initial what did I want to do with the character, and then I just built off that and turned it into this completely over-the-top character. The last step is usually, if I'm still struggling with it, I'll lock myself away for about an hour, turn on some music, and just kind of doodle away. Whether it's scribbles, it doesn't need to be drawings, it can just be words, it can be thoughts, just trying to come up with something. And I tend to try and stay away from that because to me that's more of a forced idea than it is just an idea coming to me, and I struggle a little bit with that. So I'm hoping this class can help me a little bit with that. The next step that I usually go on to is research, and I research pretty much everything when it comes to animation or game design that I'm working on. I actually have 2 systems set up in my office. One is solely dedicated to working on my models, and the other one is so that I can basically research on the fly. If I'm working on some clothing or that, and I want to see different styles, and I want to get a few more ideas, I can bring it up on my other system, and I can automatically just try to look at my character that I'm working on and look at the examples that I go through. I keep files on my system as well for every project that I've worked on. That basically keeps a database of all my reference images, and I'll find that typically when I'll go through and I'll work on a project, I'll end up with somewhere between 20 and sometimes 50 different reference images just to go by. The next step I go into is then off of drawing basic concepts and that. It doesn't need to be anything over the top. So what I mean by that is I'll go through, and this was a character that I did a few years ago, but it was a monkey that I did that was a samurai. And what I did was I just tried to make it so that I had a starting block and I had the front and the side, And that's really the important step, because I can put those images into my software and it gives me a starting block. My character doesn't need to end up exactly like that, but it's something that gives me a starting point. And you can go through, and as you saw on that, you can do accessories and different types of things like that. As long as you give yourself that starting block, it's always a good concept. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be over the top. I've actually transferred this over into my everyday life with working as well. Last night, for example, I brought home a sheet that I was going through, and I work with merchandise as a manager, and I was given a list of things that I needed to try and come up with a design so that the merchandise would flow together well. And just going through, I created a simple map in that with some simple blocks and kind of plugged the things in, to give a good flow to it. Now, that's not artistic, but that's still a creative process to me, because you're trying, different things, and it's that, concept that you're working on. Now, if I'm working on environments or that, because I do a lot of environmental modeling work as well, and that can be completely different. With that, I'll find myself, my research isn't so much online and looking up stuff. I'll leave the house for a day, walk downtown, bring my camera with me, and go through and just take different snapshots and photos and that. The point of the photos are to generate ideas for different designs, different concepts, also different textures in that as well, so you can get a better feel for it. So one, for example, I went through and had to create an alley scene, and I took this photo of this doorway. I didn't create the exact doorway, but just going through, I was able to tell how the rust, was different from how the door texture was. And then I was able to transfer that process and recreate that in my model of a door, so that I could have some rust on there and it would actually look like rust as opposed to just looking like it was a painted door with some copper. Really, those are the main things to my creative process right now. Idea generation, research, and just the basic concepts going through, and then it's typically on to the bulk of the work that I do, and it's just really the same thing over and over and over again. But like I said at the beginning, it is a little bit different each time as well. So I'm hoping this class will help me, figure out a few different things that I can kind of shake up, and hopefully I'll be able to get a little bit better work out of it. Okay?